The message came at 300 hours on a cold December morning. Admiral Wei stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station, her coffee growing cold in her hands as she read the transmission for the third time. The words remained the same. The Galactic Council had voted unanimously. Humanity was to be eliminated. Every man, woman, and child across 17 colony worlds and the itself. The vote had passed while Earth's ambassadors were still seated in the council chamber, smiling, believing they were there to discuss trade agreements. For 300 years, humanity had played by the rules. They had joined the Galactic Council as junior members. They had paid their dues. They had shared their technology, their art, their music. They had sent their sons and daughters to fight in wars that were not their own. They had bled for species who looked down upon them as primitive newcomers to the cosmic stage. And now, those same species had decided that humanity had grown too powerful, too unpredictable, too human. The ambassador had called humans a disease. The prime minister had compared them to a virus that spreads without control. The high command had warned that within a century, humans would dominate the galaxy through sheer population growth and technological advancement. Fear had united species that had been enemies fear of the small, soft creatures from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. Admiral set down her coffee and looked at the faces of her command staff. Young officers, old veterans, humans from Earth, Mars, Titan, and the outer colonies. They were waiting for her orders. They were waiting to know if they would fight or surrender, but already knew the answer. She had known it the moment she finished reading the message. She picked up the secure communication device and connected to the unified human command network. In homes across 17 worlds, military leaders were receiving the same call. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and admirals. The emergency protocols were activating. The protocols that humanity had prayed they would never need to use. The vote was unanimous among human leadership as well. The kill order was authorized. Deep beneath the frozen surface of Europa, massive shipyard doors began to open. Ships that had been hidden for 2 centuries emerged into the void. These were not the small patrol vessels that humanity showed to the galaxy. These were warships of terrifying design. The Council species had believed humans incapable of building vessels larger than frigates. They did not know about the hidden fleets. They did not know about the weapons. On station, Doctor received her orders and felt her heart grow cold. She had spent her life developing medical technology to save lives. Now she was being asked to activate something else entirely. The biological agents in her laboratory were not meant for healing. They were targeted weapons, designed to affect only specific alien physiologies. Each major council species had their own personalized nightmare waiting in her freezers. Was a simple farmer on the agricultural world of New Kansas when the emergency broadcast reached his homestead. Within 3 hours, he had kissed his wife goodbye and reported to the local militia headquarters. He was 57 years old and had never fired a weapon in anger, but like every human citizen, he had completed mandatory military training. Like every human citizen, he knew his role in the defense plans. The Council had no idea that humanity's farmers, teachers, doctors, and artists were all trained soldiers waiting to be activated. The first strike came from the Council fleet positioned near Alpha. 300 warships moved toward the human colony of New Hope, expecting easy prey. What they found instead was a wall of fire. Human defense platforms, hidden in asteroid fields and disguised as mining equipment, opened fire with weapons they had never encountered. Plasma cannons that could punch through their shields, rail guns that accelerated metal slugs to near light speed. Within 18 minutes, 240 ships were destroyed. The remaining 60 retreated in panic, sending desperate messages back to their Grand Admiral of the High Command received the news with disbelief. His species had dominated space warfare for 10,000 years. They had never lost a battle so completely. He demanded reinforcements and received them. 2,000 ships, the largest fleet ever assembled in history. They would crush these upstart humans and end this quickly. Meanwhile, human special forces were already moving. They did not wear uniforms or travel in military vessels. They looked like merchants, travelers, and refugees. They had been positioned throughout Council space for decades, waiting for this moment. A human agent named Sarah walked into the central power facility with a smile on her face and a devastating virus in her pocket. Within 6 hours, the entire power grid would fail. Billions would be left in darkness. The High Command had expected to lead the assault on Earth. Their fleet was the largest in the Council, over 5,000 warships strong. They began their journey with absolute confidence. Earth was far from Council space, but they could make the journey in 3 weeks using the standard jump routes. They did not know that humans had discovered alternative routes years ago, routes that cut the travel time significantly. Admiral's fleet appeared behind the formation without warning. One moment they were traveling through empty space. The next moment, human warships were emerging from hyperspace at point-blank range. They tried to respond, but their formation was designed for a frontal assault, not a battle on all sides. Human vessels carved through their lines like wolves through sheep. The battle lasted 11 hours. When it ended, the fleet no longer existed. 3,000 ships destroyed, 2,000 captured. Admiral lost 400 vessels. She considered it acceptable. On the neutral station of Galactic Hub, the Council species watched the battle reports with growing horror. This was not supposed to happen. Humans were newcomers. They were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to die quietly and make room for the older species. Instead, they were fighting back with weapons and tactics that no one had predicted. The Grand Admiral launched his second attack, determined to avenge his earlier defeat. His 2,000 ships met a human fleet of 500 vessels near the human world of Frontier. The humans were outnumbered 4-1. It did not matter. Human ships were faster. Human weapons were more powerful. Human tactics were unpredictable. The formation broke apart under concentrated fire from multiple directions. Grand Admiral escaped with his life and 73 ships. He sent a message to the Council, begging for a ceasefire. The Council debated for 6 hours. In the end, they rejected his request. They could not show weakness. They could not admit they had made a mistake. The extermination order remained active. Doctor's biological weapons were deployed on 4 Council. The agents were designed to cause severe illness but not death. Humans were not monsters. They did not seek genocide. They sought to make their enemies suffer, to make them understand the cost of betrayal, but they would not become the thing they fought against. Billions of Council citizens fell ill. Their governments crumbled under the strain of caring for the sick while fighting a war they could not win. And his militia unit were deployed to defend the colony of Green Valley from a ground assault. The soldiers were larger than humans, stronger, and equipped with advanced armor. They expected to sweep aside the human defenders without difficulty. What they found was a population that refused to surrender. Every building became a fortress. Every citizen became a soldier. The commander lost 3,000 troops taking a single city block. He ordered a retreat after the 4th day. The human counteroffensive began in the 3rd month of the war. For the first 2 months, humanity had fought defensively, protecting their worlds and wearing down the Council forces. Now they attacked. Human fleets struck at supply lines, military installations, and communication networks. Council forces found themselves blind and hungry, unable to coordinate their efforts. Admiral led the assault on the herself. She did not intend to occupy it. She only intended to send a message. Her fleet emerged from hyperspace, destroyed the orbital defense platforms, and then broadcast a single transmission to the planet below. The message was simple: surrender or face the consequences. The government surrendered within the hour. One by one, the Council species sued for peace. They were the second to surrender after their government collapsed under the combined pressure of Sarah's infrastructure attacks and the biological agent that had left 40% of their population bedridden. They held out the longest, their pride refusing to accept defeat. Admiral gave them a demonstration of humanity's power by destroying one of their moons. They surrendered the next day. The final meeting took place in the same chamber where the extermination vote had been cast 3 months earlier. Admiral stood where the human ambassadors had once sat, smiling and trusting. She did not smile now. She looked at the gathered council representatives with cold eyes and spoke in a voice that carried no warmth. Humanity would not seek revenge beyond what had already been taken. They would not enslave the council species or destroy their civilizations. But things would change. Humanity would no longer be a junior member of the galactic community. They would no longer ask permission or seek approval. They had tried peace. They had offered friendship. They had been repaid with betrayal and attempted genocide. From this day forward, humanity would chart its own course. Any species that threatened human lives would face the full power of human wrath. Any species that sought friendship would find humanity a generous and loyal ally. The choice was theirs. The council representatives had no words. They had gambled everything on their ability to destroy humanity before humans could respond. They had lost. Now they would live with the consequences of their decision. Admiral turned and walked out of the chamber without waiting for a response. Behind her, the representatives of 100 species sat in silence, contemplating a galaxy that would never be the same. Humanity had come to the stars seeking friends and knowledge. They had found enemies and treachery, and in response, they had become something the galaxy would never forget. The kill order had been executed, not the one the Council had intended, but the one humanity had authorized. The order to kill the galaxy's illusions about human weakness. The order to kill the comforting belief that humans could be ignored or eliminated. The order to kill the old order and build something new in its place. In the years that followed, the galaxy would remember this war as the human awakening. It was the moment when the universe learned an important lesson. Humans were slow to anger. They preferred peace over war. They would rather trade than fight. But when pushed, when betrayed, when given no choice, they would become the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever known. And they would never be underestimated again.